Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Right now in Warzone Season 3, obviously the TTK is pretty fast because a lot of the meta updates that they did with the Season 3 patch directly buff the damage on a ton of top tier weapons. So it feels like in game, you're getting melted. In a lot of cases, you probably are. In a lot of other cases, you're probably doing the melting. That said, today I want to focus purely on time to kill stats and break down the top 5 fastest TTK weapons and fastest TTK loadouts that we've got in the game right now. Quite a few of the weapons on the list here today might be sleeper weapons you don't realize are as good as they are. Sometimes it's because it's a much higher skill gap weapon, like in the case of our first one here, the DM10. In other cases, there are some more obvious choices because they are just objectively insanely powerful weapons. But that said, first up, as mentioned with the DM10, this thing is not a top tier pick. Not everyone is going into a game going, man, I can't wait to use my DM10. But this thing fries. All the TTK stats here today are from True Game Data. I'll leave a link to the site down in the description below. So it's tried, it's true, it's tested by the best source that we have for this information. The DM10 at 45 meters, like prime engagement territory, 651 millisecond TTK. Insanely fast. Now, that said, this is a semi-auto gun, so that TTK can fluctuate like crazy depending on how fast you can spam this thing and how accurate you are while using it. But if you're good with a semi-auto gun like this, the reward is insane. It's high risk, high reward to the extreme. So first up here, I am using the Willis 3 times. This is simply a matter of preference. As always, optics are always that. So if you like a red dot way more, or a hollow, or whatever scope it is that you are just super comfortable with more than a Willis 3 times, go for that. Switch it up to your preference for sure. I've kind of bounced back and forth with the muzzle here. Monolithic is just so good, getting us insane velocity and insane range, but also when you're spamming this thing, especially with the setup that we've got on here, there's noticeable recoil. And as you get out to 40, 50, 60, 70 meters, it's a lot more noticeable. So something like a compensator is incredibly useful here. So I've been rocking that lately. Reinforced barrel here is great, better range and velocity. Even without mono, we're up to an 1100 velocity and over a 50 meter effective damage range. That is fantastic as is. I also go for extended mag 2. It's going to be a 30 rounder with this rate of fire being 313 with rapid fire on here, which we'll talk about in just a moment. You're not going to burn through 30, but obviously it's sort of a choose your own adventure type situation, right? Where if you're spamming it faster, you're going to burn through the 30 rounds faster, of course. As mentioned, I also have rapid fire on here because it only hurts control and not range and velocity like it would on full auto guns. So if you're comfortable with the recoil with this thing, you can get an even faster TTK if you can obviously spam this thing accordingly. So this thing has some huge upsides with a much higher entry barrier in terms of skill level. Next up here, kind of another surprise pick, the Feng 82. This is an LMG. It really feels more like it's an assault rifle that's just really heavy, just with the way it plays and the way it feels. That said, it is a little bit awkward, it's a little bit clunky, but it also melts if you're landing shots with it. For this, at 55 meters, again, prime like mid to long range territory, an 878 TTK, which is faster than a ton of your mainstream rifles and other LMGs and other long range meta options. People don't realize just how effective the Feng can be if you get used to it. Its fire rate's a little bit weird, its overall feel and handling's a little bit weird as mentioned, but if you can get used to this gun and spend some time mastering it, again, it's a very rewarding setup here. So again, Willis 3 times for me. I switch back and forth with the Oturo red dot, the Volsky reflex, messing around with all sorts of optics, again, just depending on preference there. Monolithic suppressor is great here. Range and velocity increase, so we're up over 1,000 velo, 1,100 velo actually, 57 meter effective damage range. Reinforced barrel is going to factor into that as well with the better range and that velocity there. I do go for vertical foregrip in this case. Gives me the max horizontal control, so it's going to force this pattern to be essentially straight vertical and be a lot less random, way more predictable, which is huge for long range. And then extended 1 here is a 50 rounder with this rate of fire being 461. Your DPM is going to be fine with that. If you wanted to upgrade to extended 2, it'll be 75. It's just going to feel a lot more like an LMG and a lot less like a slow and heavy rifle if you go for extended 2. So that's why I personally stray away from that. Extended 1 does the job just fine. But yeah, this is another weapon that is not a high tier pick rate by any means, but it's incredibly good in the right hands. And by the way, as we're going through all the weapons and setups here today, if you guys enjoy the video, you find the info helpful, a like rating is always seriously appreciated. Much love to everyone who takes the time to do so. And if you're new to the channel, you want to guarantee that every single day you're always in the know for everything going on in COD, whether it's news, updates, patch notes, notes, meta breakdowns, that's all right here. So feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Next up here, another very high skill gap weapon, but one that's better than ever, the TR2, aka the FAL. This thing melts. Again, much like the DM10, it being semi-auto means that its TTK can fluctuate a lot. If you can spam this thing fast, it's going to be incredibly rewarding if you can be accurate. If you're not that good with semi-auto guns, obviously, it's going to be a much more daunting task. Here at 40 meters, 600 millisecond TTK. This thing is insane after the updates that it got with season 3 here. So once more, Willis 3 times is what my default sort of go-to is for semi-auto, but if you want to switch over 2 times, Oturo, Volsky, whatever the case is, go for that. Compensator yet again, just because we are spamming so much here, the control definitely gets a little bit iffy the faster you're spamming this thing over the longer ranges, so this is going to help out a lot there. Reinforced barrel in this case, helping out that range and that velocity, 1100 velocity on the dot, which is solid, and then also nearly a 50 meter effective damage range is great. Lightweight foregrip, because the aiming idle sway is actually incredibly useful here, especially as you're trying to track targets over those longer distances, 40, 50, 60, 70 meters, right? So that's a solid option. And then extended 2 here is going to be a 40. Again, you're kind of burning through this at your own rate. 400 RPM is not going to be crazy. Rapid fire in this case is a decent choice. Again, it's only going to hurt recoil. So if you wanted to upgrade to gunfighter and throw on this, throw on a stock, throw on a laser, or even a rear grip if you wanted to, totally viable there. Or if you wanted to switch out rapid fire for, you know, the compensator or a lightweight foregrip, if you're okay with having different control on there, you're just comfortable with spamming it, you can do so. This thing is pretty versatile for a semi-auto gun, and it hits if you're good with it. Hey everyone, real quick, wanted to give a shout out to my friends over at G Fuel. If you are returning here for Verdansk, if you're diving into some nostalgic gameplay, a crucial part of your loadout here has to be some G Fuel. There is no better option for staying hydrated, focused, and energized than G Fuel, and they got you covered with a ton of different flavors. My absolute favorite as of late for energy have been Hype Sauce, Watermelon Limeade, and then also the new Drop Shot Citrus flavor. So good. If you want to get anything at all from the G Fuel site though, whether it be some tubs, some hydration formula, whatever the case is, code Immortal has you covered with a nice discount at checkout. Link for that will be down in the description below if you're interested. Another super underrated option that is crazy good, the AMR9. This is more so just exclusively meant to be a sniper support option here, because it being an MW3 sub, its movement, its handling up close is gonna fall short to a lot of the BO6 guns and even some other MW3 subs. But in the mid-range, like at 22 meters, where all these other subs, Black Ops 6 included, are dropping off and their TTK is getting slower, that's not the case with this. A 792 millisecond TTK at 22 meters, fantastic to pair with your HDR or your CAR or your LR762 as a sniper support build here. I hate the irons on this thing, so I go for a slate. The Nightart model 2023 is a great alternative as well. Again, whatever you're comfortable with, go ahead, rock that. Shadow Strike suppressor will work the same as all the other suppressors here, extending out our range and our velocity even more. And then the Enforcer long barrel is going to do more of the same, getting us better range, velocity, and control. So we're up to a 693 velocity. That'll work great in the mid-range, 15 meter effective damage range. There are obviously the integrated suppressor options here, like with the Nimbus 6, but that's not going to help as much with your recoil control as Enforcer long would, and you definitely need some recoil on this thing. The help there is certainly beneficial. Like for instance, why I also use the skeletal vertical grip, helping out with control and firing aim stability, just like any other vertical grip will do. It's all the same stats there, of course. Just going to make the weapon a lot easier in the mid-range. And then lastly, the 50 round extended mag works fine here. 100 is just not necessary. Also, it's going to slow you down way too much for my liking, even in the mid-range though. Like that ADS, that sprint to fire, is not good with the 100 rounds in there, so 50 will be totally sufficient there. And you get a weapon that most players are not even paying any attention to that actually ends up melting. And then lastly here, while yes, a lot of those options were maybe a little bit off meta or surprising because it's a pure TTK setup build, it's not necessarily always the main meta weapon that is going to have the best TTK. There's a lot of factors that go into it. The AMAX is an exception here. This is an outright meta weapon that is so good with its TTK, on top of being great for control, handling, versatility, everything else as well. Whereas a lot of the other options on this list are, you know, fast TTK with an asterisk everywhere else, semi-auto, high skill gap, funky feeling, whatever the case is. The AMAX is checking all the right boxes, and at 44 meters, it's got a 624 millisecond TTK, which is wild for a full auto gun that's relatively easy to use like this is. So in this case, I go for the Dobrik 4 times. This is going to be just like the VOK 3 times from classic MW 2019 in Warzone 1. Really like the look and feel of that. Mono suppressor here, of course, helping out with our range and our velocity. Reinforced barrel will do more of the same. So we have a 1230 velo that feels so consistent at all ranges, and almost a 65 meter effective damage range, which is pretty crazy. Vertical foregrip foregrip giving us the best horizontal control, making this thing a lot more predictable and easy to use. And then extended 2 is going to be a 16 with this rate of fire. Your DPM is fine for all squad sizes, so this thing absolutely melts as well. You've got a lot of really fun builds if you're looking for fast TTK, but also some pretty practical ones as well that are more mainstream. So depending on what you're looking for in your gameplay, you got several options here that are going to just fry if you know what you're doing with these guns. But that said, that's going to wrap things up for this one. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like on your way out. And if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Help us get one step closer to reaching 1 million subs. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.